For a cartel hitman, Julio David Genesis often wondered what his old man had in mind when he named him after a biblical character. His friends just called him JD. And as he sat alone in an empty bar, nursing his 20th glass of whiskey, he figured maybe his father had sensed his son would fall in love with the stuff. It was funny, really, how he ended up nicknamed JD and addicted to Jack Daniels. He raised his glass toward the ceiling. "Sip that, old man. Hope you are keeping the devil company and saving me a seat." He downed the last swallow in one gulp and waved over his favorite waitress. "Fill my glass this time, will you?" He was as good with women as he was with guns and whiskey. He'd met Bernie's in this very bar 5 years ago. She'd served his drinks and eventually became his mistress. At least when he was in town. JD had no trouble leaving a trail of broken hearts, but in the end, he always crawled back to her. Not because she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever been with, because she wasn't. She was just easy to be around. Bernie's let him enjoy his peace, asked for little, and never demanded more than he could give. She just wanted a good time and the illusion of being loved. At 31, Bernie still turned heads, but JD didn't love her for her looks. She was more than just a mistress and a waitress. She had the brains of 100 men. That's what he always told her. She could solve puzzles that would stump a detective. He often joked that if she didn't love serving drinks she never tasted, she'd have made a damn fine private eye. She knew what he did for a living, and as long as he came back alive, she didn't care. She had no kids and never planned to. On that, she and JD were in perfect agreement. Bernie's returned with a full glass and a fresh bottle. "Don't kill yourself with the drinking. I'd be lonely in this forsaken place without you." JD took the bottle, nodded thanks, and slid her a $200 tip, which she declined. Can't a woman treat her man once in a while? Kissing her cheek. JD inhaled her sweet fragrance and smiled. "Well, I'm a lucky bloke. Cheers to many more treats." She laughed a full, unrestrained laugh that had first drawn him to her. It was the sound he missed most during those long, silent nights waiting in the dark for his next target. JD murmured to himself, "Boy, I'd pay $1 billion to hear her laugh on my deathbed." JD grew up with his grandmother. He never met his mother, who had dropped him on his grandma's doorstep one morning and never looked back. His father was a truck driver with a nasty gambling habit who was rarely around. Everything JD knew about life aside from crime was taught by his grandmother. Now, lying on a hotel bed with Bernie's asleep beside him, he ran his fingers through her blonde hair, his mind drifting back to his childhood. His grandmother, a devout Catholic and a school teacher, raised him in Atlanta, Georgia. She made sure he had everything he needed, taking him to Mass every Sunday and instilling a strict prayer routine. Before meals, when leaving the house, before bed, and even at 3 a.m. Out of curiosity, young David, as she liked to call him, once asked, "Grandma, why do you pray all day and still wake up in the middle of the night?" She placed a hand on his head and smiled. "David, God is on duty at 3 a.m., collecting prayers from the faithful before he gets busy with his day. During the rest of the day, angels handled the delivery, but they've got full hands, so I talk to him early to make sure he hears me." By 17, JD was tall, handsome, and a bit rebellious, but never enough to trouble his grandmother. She was the only family he had. When he turned 18, his father died in a car crash. His grandmother shed a few tears for her son. JD felt nothing. He just held her as she wept. That afternoon, he took one of his grandfather's old hunting rifles and wandered into the woods. Hunting brought him peace, just like playing chess with his grandmother. The precision, the silence, the thrill of the shatit calmed the edge in him. By 21, he was the best marksman in Atlanta. His grandmother passed away from cancer shortly before his college graduation. Without her, the world felt hollow. He spiraled into drinking, lost and broken, until his childhood friend Tunny found him, cleaned him up, and taught him a few street trades with a gun. JD never liked violence, but Tunny had a creed. They only robbed bad guys who preyed on the poor. JD could live with that. But one night, they got the wrong intel and targeted a cartel boss. The job went south, fast. Tunny was shot dead, and the cartel apprehended JD. But the boss saw something in him. Instead of killing him, he gave JD an errand. Eliminate a rival cartel head. JD did it cleanly and was inducted into the cartel as their top hit. His thoughts were interrupted by a ringing phone. Startled, he picked it up. No greetings, just a voice. There's an envelope with job details, ID, and cash at the usual place. The line went dead. He didn't want to wake Bernie. Silently, he slipped out of bed and headed to the shower. In the mirror, he studied himself. At 38, age was creeping in. He was still handsome, still fit, but the years were stacking up. He showered, shaved, and dressed within 5 minutes. Then brewed strong coffee and scrambled some eggs. Before ate, he said a quiet grace. It's age and fatigue, Granny. Pass a good word for me up there. After his meal, he pulled on a pair of jeans and a tee. Before leaving, Eliana Doan kissed Bernie's on the forehead and whispered, "I'll be back in a minute." She didn't hear him, of course. But it was their ritual. Outside, the Miami weather was blazing. He chose to live here after meeting Bernie's, though he had backup apartments across the country. In 15 years of killing for the mob, he'd never had to use them. The mob boss, who had become a father figure, often told him to invest wisely. JD listened, buying property and building a tidy side income, but he never wanted to quit. The money was good, but the thrill of the hunt was what kept him going. He shook away the thought of what his grandmother would think of him now. JD climbed into his Lexus RX 350. He hated the car, but it was practical and blended in. He made his way to NW 62nd Street. He didn't stop. A street vendor on the mob's payroll handed him a folded newspaper. JD took it and drove off. At the Miami casino, he found an empty parking spot. Inside the newspaper was a thick envelope. Tore it open. Cash, details, and a photo. The target was a man in his 50s. There were notes on his routine, address, and workplace, but JD always ran his own checks. Better safe than dead. The adrenaline started to kick in. He thought about going home to Bernie's, but the target's address was nearby. If he could have AD, do a quick drive-by first. The shot came from across the parking lot. JD had been lost in thought. He never let his guard down, but he'd always known he'd die like this. Shit, he muttered, slumping low. Couldn't give a brother a heads up. There was no second shot. The shooter was a professional. The bullet tore through his side, deep into his abdomen. Blood soaked his shirt. Please, Lord, not like this. He ditched the car and stumbled a few blocks on foot. Few people were on the streets, and those who saw him bleeding hurried by, either not caring or pretending not to. Somehow, he made it back to the apartment. Bernie's, wake up. She stepped out of the shower, towel in hand, and screamed when she saw the blood. No time, JD gasped. Get the med kit. All the towels you've got. She ran, but it was too late. JD died in Bernie's arms. Take the money and run, he whispered. Sell the apartments. Do something good with it. Then he was gone. 2 years later, Bernie's sat beside her pool in Beverly Hills, sipping from a crystal glass. Her phone buzzed. There's an envelope with job details, ID, and cash at the usual place. The line went dead. She smiled, set the glass down, and stood. Time to get to work. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We'll see you in the next one.